Hi, this is Tim Sanders, founder of the Omnia radiation balancer, and I'm honoured to have been a guest on the Journey to Truth show. Now, with phone radiation, most people think that because they can't feel anything, nothing is happening. But the reality is that this radiation is causing a lot of stress and damage in your body, and your brain doesn't register that it's happening. The likelihood is that you'll only find out about it when this continuous stress shows up in the body as disease. And this is backed up by well over 10,000 peer-reviewed studies showing that EMF causes serious diseases when they tested it on rats. The Omnia radiation balancer removes this stress. It's proven to balance the blood, it brings perfect crystalline structure to water, and our kinesiology muscle tests show that the body goes super strong when you stuck it on your phone. And it works with 5G. You just order enough patches to cover every radiating device in your home and you're done. It lasts forever. But to be clear, let's not get complacent. We must all stop 5G together. So big thanks and big love to Tyler and Aaron. Click on the link below and you can quickly and permanently bring balance back to your body. Thank you.
Hey, you're listening to Journey to Truth podcast. Tonight we have on John DeSouza, who most people know is a former FBI special agent. He's an author. He is author of Clear Hearers, Extra Dimensionals, and Para Investigators. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's
well
correct.
done.
Unfortunately, I have not had a chance to read them, although I've heard people talk about them and they seem pretty amazing.
I have Extra Dimensionals and I've read it and it's very, very good.
Oh, thanks, man. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's great to be on here with you on Journey to Truth podcast with you guys, with Tyler and Aaron. This is awesome stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
As
you.
I call you Aaron.
Ron, yes.
Yeah.
I get that a
Good
lot.
stuff.
Yes.
That's awesome. And it's my understanding, so just for the people who don't know, the whole X-Files thing, so specifically some of the cases you investigated with your time during the FBI were used during the first season of the X-Files, correct?
That's correct. And that came to a screeching halt because the FBI brass ended up calling the creator, Chris Carter, and kind of calling him on the carpet for finding out where was he getting his material from and what was going on. And he talks about that today, and he says that he felt like they were going to shut him down. I guess they were I'm sure they were very kind of threatening. And they also interviewed me as well with that same threatening attitude.
Really?
And I told them I had nothing to do with any material going over to them at that time. That it was my material that was taken, and it didn't have anything to do with me. So they Chris Carter asked them specifically what episodes are they talking about, and we can look into finding out more about where the information came from. They weren't, and I asked them the same thing. They weren't willing to give more specifics than that. So they kind of called it a draw, and everybody returned to their corners, and Chris Carter kept on making the X-Files. And I don't think it was as good after the first season.
It wasn't. No. The
After
first
that.
season, by far the best. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I agree.
so you left the FBI shortly after Comey came into the FBI. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was about like 30 days later I was out because I was aware of who he was at the time he was appointed. He was appointed by the renegade cartel that took over the presidency over there here in the United States. And most people know who that is. And that individual renegade appointed this guy to be in charge of the FBI, who it was very well known. It was very well known who he was and what he'd been doing in the previous 20 years. He'd been doing pretty bad things for another criminal cartel, the Clinton criminal cartel.
Well, there you go.
And that's what he'd been up to, and that was his job. That was his full-time job in government during the previous period. And this was not a secret. This was pretty easy to find out. All you had to do is do a quick, not quick, but do a simple internet search as to all the places that he had been previously
And
what happened in all those places where he had been.
Yeah, and ironically, you'd think people in the FBI would all be up to speed on
Right.
on what he's about. Right.
And they knew that. I mean, if nothing else, I told them. I made them aware, and many others also made them aware. But there was nothing they could do. I mean, it was Renegade wanted him in charge of the FBI.
And that's that.
That was all there was. So I figured at that time I had been in for 25 years, so it was probably a good time to get out at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
And you made the right choice. And
definitely did.
At that point, the plan was already in motion, so there's not much done.
Exactly. The plan was already in motion. That's a good way of putting it, because that also applies to the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which was what I'm wearing, my shirt.
I was gonna segue into that next. Yeah.
Please do. Go.
Yeah. So I noticed you're wearing a Q shirt. No.
That is correct. Yeah. That is correct. And I was hoping you guys would be wearing your Q shirts tonight too, but we're good. You got Q in your heart, so I think we're good with that. And everybody.
I'll put a Q on my shirt and post. I'll just.
But here's people who watch me always want to hear some sort of. They always want to hear some new material and some kind of inside baseball. So I have it for them tonight. Especially regarding Q. And here's what it is. In speaking of Renegade administration, the Renegade cartel that was in charge of the United States at that time, in 2015, and this is mostly what I've gotten from my sources. In 2015, there was this great general working in government, and he had been in many different posts. He was mostly, and this is Renegade administration already despised him, because he was a great terrorism fighter, a jihad fighter throughout the government, and he was known for that. He was a great counter-terrorism organizer for the government, and he fought against jihad throughout the world. And his name was General Flynn, and he was at this time. He's also had another specialty. His other specialty was information warfare. Okay, information warfare. So, which means a lot of different things, but I mean, it means what it says it is. And he wrote many white papers. He wrote many policy papers on this stuff. And in 2015, it was really strange. He was like he was a lot like the Pope, one of the old popes, authorizing a crusade. Because what he did was he went to one event and he started talking about that he was going to authorize an army of digital soldiers across the world to do the patriotic work for America. And this is an interpretation, but I think it's a correct interpretation as to what he was really doing. And he basically authorized this crusade that involved you guys and me and all of us, an army, as he said, an army of digital soldiers that would be out there like Minutemen, that would be out there defending the values of the United States. Many of them would be, as he called it, anonymous. Many of them would be anonymous, but some of them would not. Some of them would be under their own names, like you guys know. But we would all be involved in the same crusade to defend this nation, to fight against the forces of evil and darkness. And at that time, not too many people knew what he was talking about in 2015 when it was happening. Not too many people knew, but there was one group that knew, and it was the Renegade administration. They knew what he was talking about. They knew also that because they had the sources to a lot of all the information sources from all the different places at that time. So they knew he was cooking up something. He was cooking up something called the Q movement, for lack of a better term. As a matter of fact, they thought that he himself was going to be Q. That's
Really?
what they believed that. And again, this is all stuff that's coming to me after the fact that people in government are telling me this is what happened. And so they believed that he personally was going to be whatever this Q thing is. And so because of that, they targeted him for annihilation. The Cabal and the deep state and their minions in the renegade administration targeted him for complete destruction. Okay, they did what's one of these things that's called a die operation, which is done often against the enemies of the deep state. It's called a die operation, which means defame, investigate, and expurgate, which just means these are the steps they take to take somebody down who has a great reputation, who's a person of integrity, and they have to come up with nonsense against them, and then they have to attack, accuse, and then get rid of them. And so that is why General Flynn was targeted by the deep state, by the Cabal, by all of these renegade minions. And they were in a big hurry too, because they did a sloppy operation. They did all kinds of shenanigans, all kinds of illegal things as well against him in order to get him. And not only that, they also took down people around him who were his sympathizers and his allies. They took down people who, again, they ran these die operations against them, and just took down a bunch of people. One of these, I'll tell you guys some names of some of these individuals offline to see if you want to talk to them and interview them after the fact. But there were people, because General Flynn was even in a liaison position where he was kind of a go-between between the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon. And so because of that, he had agents from all those agencies who were his supporters. And they were also targeted by the deep state in these different agencies, in the FBI and the CIA and at the Pentagon, people who were his undying supporters. They were targeted and they were taken down too. And it was with crazy claims and stuff that just like made no sense, because this cartel that was determined to stop this from coming into being, they were commanded by the Cabal. We cannot allow this to come into existence. We've got to stop it before it happens.
That's their worst nightmare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But only the Cabal knew that at this time. Even the minions at in the Obama administration, even they didn't know why we were taking down General Flynn. They didn't know. They just knew they were ordered to do it, but they didn't really know about what Q was all about, that this operation was being put together, and what it would really mean. They had no clue, but they were just carrying out their orders, and they were using a lot of illegal means, which are going to be exposed now with General Flynn, now with the Maestro. Now that the Maestro is in charge, and the Maestro being President Donald Trump, and we're going to see a lot of good results on that.
Yeah,
yes.
and that's a common trend with a lot of the attacks we're seeing on a lot of people. They don't just attack the person; they attack everyone around them. That's just kind of their game plan, their go-to plan for anybody who's trying to expose their criminal acts. So that's just, when you see that happening, you immediately know.
Well, when you
red
see
flag.
and when you see like all these people all at the same time suddenly all start saying the same things, it's like this very obvious coordinated effort that gets activated. And like it's just very, very obvious to me that it's not a natural occurring, like, oh, all these people just suddenly had an awakening and decided
Right.
they wanted to speak the truth about this. No, it's like a very coordinated effort. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's always, it's like in the FBI, we always used to say, it's not the crime that gets them, it's the cover up afterward that always gets them.
Yeah.
And this is cover up, what you're talking about, like by the media, by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Like when we see all these stories that use the exact same wording. Today, the well-known conspiracy theory called Q is a
bizarre conspiracy. They all say bizarre, like
is a bizarre cult-like collection of people who are this and that and who believe that and so Q is pushing crazy theories like, and then they'll name like the craziest thing.
Perfect example. So PGA golfer Scott Piercy, a friend of mine, just made me aware of this, lost 3 of his sponsors because he tweeted something that was Q related. They went into his Twitter feed he didn't tweet it. He posted something on Instagram that was Q related. Then they went back into some of his other posts and finally just came to the conclusion that he believed in Q, and 3 of his sponsors dropped him. And this was like 2 days ago. So that's a perfect example.
There's
been there was like a police officer that got relieved of duty because he had a Q patch on or something. I remember once.
And
there's multiple examples that I've even seen of that where it's like
I hope that
they've created this narrative that they push out there that Q is a dangerous like hate group or something, like some kind of at like worse, and at best it's a crazy right-wing conspiracy. Like they like to push that right-wing term to really off anyone that doesn't want to be associated with right-wing, and it's crazy, only crazy people believe in this, and it's just all kinds of slanderous just things that there's nothing backing them up other than the media and everything that's putting it out there.
Absolutely. But anyone that studies the Q drops, whether they're on AQN or whether they study them with all the great interpreters that are on YouTube and other places as well, anybody who studies those drops knows that those of us who are Q followers, we know the future. We know what's going to happen before it happens, and only we know that. And why is that? Because we know that Q is nothing more than a military intelligence communication group. That's all they are. And they're just putting out military intel out there because we are in a war in this nation and across the globe. We're in a war. And it's the forces of darkness, the Cabal, that is pursuing to reestablish its power over all the nations, especially the United States, of course, and the alliance of the light that is being spearheaded by President Donald Trump. There's no other way to say it, because he is the spear tip in this allied group that is fighting against these dark Cabal forces, the deep state, and all their little subsidiaries, all of their minions that are trying to destroy us.
Which is why they've also been attacking him so heavily since he's been in office, and actually before he's been in office, the
whole campaign was attacked.
They were spying on him well before he was ever president. They had the fake Steele dossier created that was obviously fake. Yeah. And obviously they knew they had to throw something together quickly. Like you said, they did a sloppy job with it because they were rushing it. And it turns out it was a something else that they just like slapped his name on or something.
Yeah.
And changed some of the names, and they're like, all right, this is real.
It was written like in the Washington Post like years earlier.
Yeah.
And they switched the names up.
They just used it
same
for
thing.
Trump. And then the whole Russia hoax, they've been, ever since he's been in office, hammering him as working with Russia and all these ridiculous claims that have nothing backing them up at all, but they're like just pushing and pushing and pushing it on all through the mainstream media mostly. And
well, what do you think about that? Like, so the Russia probe didn't work,
and they came out like, nope, there's nothing here.
Yeah, and
like this is
so
all
they've had many things they've tried and they're not working. Now they're up to the coronavirus, which is what are your thoughts on all that?
False flags. Yeah.
You know, on the Russia thing, on the whole Russia thing that was continuing for, I guess, like 3 years.
Yeah.
I guess like 3 years. That was, and this is the most incredibly dangerous part of this Russia hoax, is that the evil queen who was trying to come into her throne over the United States, she had, and if you go back and listen to her speeches, you'll see that what I'm saying is true. She had been given orders from the Cabal, from her masters, that her first agenda when she came into office, when Hillary, I don't know what I said, when she came into office, her first agenda was to get the United States into a nuclear war against Russia. That was her number one agenda. And if you go back and listen to some of her speeches, you'll see that what I'm saying is true. She was brewing up some incredible hatred towards Russia and some kind of what we call paranoia against Russia. And that was going to be her first order of business, to do that. And they never thought she would lose. So they, however, their first priority, that first foreign policy priority, to get us into a war against Russia. And one of the main reasons that was number one priority for the Cabal was because it was the only thing that it was the last thing they could think of to try to really reduce the power of the United States, was to get us into a nuclear war with
World War
Russia.
III.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the only way they could really think of to just really do something to just level the United States power and just make them just one more European power that's just running around taking orders from them. And so that's why that is and has also, it's even remained a policy goal for the Cabal. And that's why you still see, even after she lost, you still see all of these Russia machinations going on where they're trying to whip up hysteria and fear and fervor against Russia. And of course, the other reason for it also, because whenever the Cabal does something, there's always layers of reasons.
Yeah.
It's never just one set of reasons. Another big reason for that also is not just to reduce the power of the United States and Russia probably also, but it's because Putin is who is leader for life in Russia. He is probably the single, or maybe the second most hated man on the earth by the Cabal. And the reason is, you guys probably know, because he's one of the only major powers that has kept out the central banks from Russia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys know about that. That is the ultimate thing, no, that you never do if you're a prime minister or a president, to the Cabal, keeping their central banks
that's how they control the country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so they absolutely despise Putin, and they want him destroyed at any cost. That's a huge priority for them. Probably the only other person that they hate more than Putin is the leader of the last remaining dictator of what's his name, Syria, Assad.
Oh
Assad,
yeah.
I thought you were going to say Trump.
Yeah.
Oh no! Well, yeah, of course, Trump. Trump's probably number one.
Trump's probably number one, actually.
Yeah. But number two is definitely Putin, and then number three is Assad in Syria, because Assad also, like all those Syrian Middle East dictators. I don't mean to go into history lessons here, but all those Middle Eastern dictators from I think it's from 10 years ago, or maybe it was 20, with the Arab Spring that supposedly was created because people wanted democracy in their nations. All of those Middle Eastern dictators were overthrown simply because, and along with Gaddafi and others as well, and Egypt's Hosni Mubarak and many others, all of them were overthrown for the same reason, because they kept the Cabal's central banks out of their nations, and they all went to a fractional gold reserve dinar as their basis of their money. Another big global no-no that you can never do, because those Middle Eastern dictators thought, we're so powerful, we're dynasties, nobody's going to come in here and overthrow us. And the Cabal did it. They organized, they used the CIA, they organized this fake Arab Spring that supposedly was from the people to overthrow those dictators, and they overthrew all of them. They overthrew all of them, one after the other, and even go up to and including Muammar Gaddafi, who was doing the same thing with his money that the other dictators were doing as well. And the only one that they couldn't get was the one they wanted the most, and that was Assad. They weren't, and to this day, they haven't been able to get Assad because Assad is just too smart, and he prepared for this contingency because he knew what the globalists, what the Cabal was going to do.
Yeah,
so,
and you notice they try to demonize him as well. So all three of those people they've tried to demonize in the media as being this terrible dictator, and they try to call Trump like a dictator, and say, and when you just ignore what they're saying and look at what they actually do, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why the mainstream media has no credibility whatsoever.
None.
But the sad thing is, we have just seen demonstrated the one final power that they still have, even though as an institution they're on their way out. But the one power that they still have is to create fear, to create panic, and they're doing it with this coronavirus. Along with the Democratic Party, they're spreading fear everywhere and trying to get a panic because they're trying to hurt the American economy. That's it. And it's worked. It's worked because they still have that ability, unfortunately, because of some people are still paying attention.
Do you think the Alliance can take advantage of this situation and use this as fuel for a financial reset?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, that's funny that you would say that, because today Trump announced that because of the coronavirus panic and the harm to our economy that's been going on, he is going to take some emergency financial, some kind of emergency financial relief measures for average Americans. Stuff that the globalists will be very unhappy with, and he may be on television announcing what it is right now. He was kind of hinting that it may be emergency tax relief. He was saying that he may just do a retroactive cut in payroll tax for the previous year. So if you haven't filed your taxes yet, he may be just slashing what you're paying for taxes for the year. Just it's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff, but we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with that.
I mean, I do believe there is a financial reset looming, and
did you see what happened in Italy right now yesterday?
No. What happened?
Enlighten us.
The economic minister in Italy just announced that they are, and I don't know how this works, but he said that they have ordered a nationwide quarantine for people to stay home from work.
I did hear about that as well, actually.
So therefore, they are freezing people's mortgages, paying on their mortgages where they don't have to pay, and they will suffer no repercussions from not paying on their mortgages.
Yeah, because if you can't go to work, you can't money, you can pay your mortgage.
Man, it's
right.
But look what's happening. It's happening. Like, this is huge. This is big stuff. This is what we've been talking about for years now.
There's so much happening right now.
And also with the coronavirus, did you see that building, the hotel in China that collapsed in on its own footprint? It was a hotel.
Oh.
It was a hotel that they were housing all the coronavirus victims, like a 3-story hotel, and it just miraculously collapsed in on its own footprint.
Controlled demolition style.
Exactly.
Wow.
Collapsed.
And I haven't looked into it, but it's just immediately fishy. I mean,
like Building 7 just collapsed its own footprint for no reason.
For no reason. Didn't get hit by a plane. Just
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So they, who knows?
It's like that's how desperate they're. Just. Well, China's like also because we talk about the cabal, but it seems like China's kind of its own cabal.
Yeah.
They're kind of like their own, like Edge of Wonders talked about. They're their own deep state. They're just they're just kind of like a separate thing.
Yeah, it seems that way, and also China. I believe, and I think that Trump believes also that China has sections that are firmly with the cabal, but it also has sections that are trying to work with the alliance, like President Xi. They're saying
Xi is.
There's a lot of talk that President Xi wants to work with Trump and wants to work with him, but he has military elements that he doesn't quite control that are also, hardliners that are on the other side working for the cabal, and he has to deal with it, So that's the situation. China's so large. It's so big and diverse. So that's how
1.4 billion people.
So so do you have any insider information on the coronavirus? Because a lot of people are worried about it. There is this fear. Is there anything that some of our listeners are listening to who are afraid right now? Because people I would expect would think it's a conspiracy are like really scared right now. So I'm just curious what you can tell them.
Well, I can tell you the most basic information that I got when this thing was, even before it was starting, was, I had some people who had some knowledge who were telling me, this is it. They got this is going to be the apocalyptic virus. It's going to kill somebody. It's going to kill a lot of people, and it's being released on purpose by the cabal. But that was very preliminary information that I got. As time went on, and after it launched, and I use that word very advisedly, after it was launched, I was told this was a bioweapon that was weaponized from a virus, and it was weaponized. And I'm just saying, this is the info I got. It was weaponized to bind, because this is what they found. They found that the viruses are more deadly when they're used as bioweapons if they're used to bind to a certain type of ethnic group, and it creates a higher mortality that way, but only among that ethnic group. And I was told it was targeted towards Asians and Chinese. And so for that reason, they believed that there was cooperation from certain elements of the Chinese who are truthfully always looking for depopulation possibilities in their own nation. They don't see that as a bad thing, So it's possible that cabal elements in China were very happy to welcome in this agent, this weaponized bioweapon, and so they were able to bring that in and target it in China. But it was always meant to spread to non-Asians as well. But it's a mutating thing, and for some reason it breaks apart. It still carries the markers of corona, but it breaks apart in its deadly quality when it is passed over to non-Asian. This is what I was told by people who are scientific personnel, and so it becomes kind of like the regular flu when it's given over to non-Asians. When it passes over to non-Asian, still carries the markers of the corona, but it's not lethal. You see, so and then as I was watching the reporting, the corroborating evidence that I got for that is that if you look at all the reporting, they won't say the names of the people who are being infected, but more than being infected, the ones who actually die. the ones who are actually dying. Because these people their next of kin have been notified. There's no reason why you can't release the names. But it's like, but they won't do it. And so for me, that helps to confirm that they don't want us to know the ethnic background, the race of the people who are dying. Because I think it's going to result in information that by far, the most people who have deadly consequences with this corona stuff are of an Asian background.
Yeah.
Well, and we've
they
heard,
don't want us to know that.
Yeah. And we've heard this directly. Corey Good said in his old Cosmic Disclosure episodes, they would do these tests on underground cities, and they would attack specific ethnic groups. Yeah. This was years ago. He goes, they've been testing this stuff for a long time, and he said it is effective. It works better.
It works better that way.
Yeah.
For some reason, and I'm not a scientist. I don't know why, but it seems like it does work better. And also, I was told that the Cabal is very happy with the success after 3 years of the Russian nonsense that they had that got them nowhere, and all the other things they've tried against Trump and against the American economy. Nothing has worked. Nothing has worked until now. They're so happy with this that this thing is probably going to peter out by the end of this month. It's pretty much gonna peter out. But they're so happy with it, they have other bioweapons ready. And instead of releasing them every 4 years or every 8 years on election cycles like they've been doing in the past, they're going to start releasing these like every few months. And the next one, I was told that the next one is going to be against Indians, as in India, and people of Indian extraction, even here in the United States. I was told that's the next big one that's being released, and I think, and I'm thinking that's probably true, because the way that I saw Trump welcomed over in India recently by the Prime Minister, the guy was so happy to see Trump, and Trump even said, "I am bringing some information to the Indian Prime Minister on this coronavirus and its future implications." He actually said those words.
Really?
So I think Trump knows something about the next attack, the next bioweapon that's going to be going down, which is possibly going to be against India and Americans of Indian extraction as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that's what we're looking at.
That's great info.
Can't wait till they're not able to do this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's just their last.
This is their last,
last stand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Cabal.
Absolutely, and they are desperate with something like this that can be pretty easily traced to the laboratories and the things where they develop these things. And I believe they have traced this one as well, because we had a bunch of scientists that were arrested over at, I believe it was Harvard. I believe it was the Harvard laboratories. And they were arrested, and a bunch of biological material was seized. And the stories out there floating around, but there hasn't been any more information on that.
What do you think of the theory that we hear going around about a 5G tower being flipped on in Wuhan that weakens the immune system to make them even more susceptible to this virus? Do you think that it's being used hand in hand, or is that just an out there theory?
No, I think it's very possible that just the 5G out there was used, because, but overall 5G in the system, I believe that Q told us, I'm pretty sure Q did a drop on 5G saying that the allies have taken back 5G. So
I remember that.
Yeah, so it can't be used against the people, and now it's going to be used for our benefit. But it's very possible that an array in Wuhan, like you said, could have been taken and weaponized against the people over there. That could happen very easily. All you need is a group of corrupt scientists to get it done for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I read that the 5G tower was flipped on like 8 miles away from the first outbreak of the coronavirus, like the same day. I don't know if that's valid, but it's just, what it is. So going back to Q, all these CEO resignations that we're seeing right now, like you said, we know the future. The Q army knows the future. So we knew this has been a long time coming, and we're seeing it every day. And what do you think the reason is? I think these people they're involved in these criminal acts and they're stepping down instead of having to face public humility. Is that what's happening?
No, it's almost like a legal trick that goes on. I've been an attorney for a long time, and I see this kind of thing, and also as an FBI agent, I've seen this kind of thing. When you have a CEO that is in charge of a company, if he gets indicted one day while he's still with the company, it's a world of difference if he gets indicted the moment one day after he steps out of the company. It's a world of difference because the indictment will give access. If he's still in the company, the indictment will give access to all the company's records into that criminal investigation. And it'll give access to everything that's gone on in that company, you see? And so what happens is these companies find out, the boards of directors, they find out that this indictment is coming. And so they say to the CEO, you got to step out. You got to step out right now because if you get indicted while you're still with us, then all of our books are going to be open. And we can't afford that because, and the books can still be opened through a separate, criminal investigation, but it just makes it a lot easier if the CEO is still there while he gets indicted. See, that's why you see all of these indictments. All of these CEOs all step out at the same time and say, okay, I'm out. And then they can negotiate, the indictments and how that's going to go down. And there's companies are going to be subject through them to all the scrutiny that happens in these cases.
Look at all the big name companies we've seen. Disney, MasterCard, T-Mobile, IBM, Harley-Davidson. There's a whole list of them. I mean, what company can you trust? What's really going on? This is a worldwide problem.
Yeah, because the Cabal and the deep state, they have compromised so many institutions into their criminality, into the things that they have done. I mean, can you imagine if the CEO of Disney, or as an example, gets indicted for something to do with trafficking, human trafficking, and then that would open, and he's still not resigned, he's still with the company, that then would open up the company Disney to what are their policies with trafficking, with human trafficking? What involvement do they have as a company with human trafficking all around the world? And what connections do they have to it? And that it would be unthinkable for them to open themselves up to that sort of thing. And that's the sorts of things that can happen if they didn't have these resignations going down.
Yeah, I think that's going to shock a lot of people, the whole Disney thing. I mean, it's all been hidden in plain sight for years, but I still see.
Well, a lot of these companies, like Disney, Walt Disney was a Freemason apparently, and that that in and of itself doesn't mean necessarily that you're involved in anything negative or with the Cabal, but they've, like you said, they're master infiltrators, right? They infiltrate everything. And the Cabal a long time ago seemed to have infiltrated Freemasonry and all these secret societies because it's very easy to operate secretly through and create this web, which is what they've done. And so when you see a company that's like founded on with like those type of people, it's kind of a red flag. And then when you look at a lot of the history and the things that they've done, it becomes very obvious. And Disney is very much one of those companies, unfortunately, when you dig into them and their history.
Yeah, I just read an article just from NBC News. It said between November 2018 and November 2019, over 1,300 CEOs stepped down. 1,300, and that was as of November 2019. So how many have we stepped down since then? So we know, when are these people going to be indicted? That's the thing. Or when are we going to see these arrests?
Yeah. And if I can address that for a moment, and I would like people to go to my website, John Tamil Books, and check out my book, The Para Investigators, because in that book I talk about a lot of the history of the Cabal and who they are and what they have created, what they've done, and what they are responsible for. And here's the thing. The Cabal is of course, it's the bloodlines, the many bloodlines that have dominated this planet for thousands of years through the nations, of course, the nations who have been their obedient vassals, let me put it that way. And so I have a lot of course, we all have a lot of patriot friends who even believe in Q's information and so forth, but they all have the same frustration, like, what's taking so long? Why is this being slow walked so far? Why is the CCC, why is the Clinton criminal cabal still walking around free? Why is the renegade cabal still walking around free? And all these other bad actors that have committed so many crimes, why are they all walking around free? So, and the answer is because we are at a moment of transition. We are at a moment of transition that is so massive that it hasn't been seen since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. And what happens is when you're at a period of huge transition where these old elites that have been in charge of our institutions, draining them of value for so long, draining our money of value, draining our labor of value, draining everything of value, and looting planet, basically. What happens is, and this is something we found out when Rome fell, when the Western Roman Empire fell, is that if you do this too quickly, if you do this period transition too quickly, it overthrows all the institutions you have in place. The institutions will things that you think will be there forever, they can be overthrown, they can be gone, they can be destroyed. And then you get in all the barbarian hordes that then take over everything. And we found that out in the Roman Empire, when the Western Roman Empire was overthrown. And then the Visigoths and the Goths and the Franks and all the different tribes, came in, and Europe, especially Europe, went into the Dark Ages because there were no institutions to protect the people. Imagine walking out your front door and every day the Bloods or the Crips get to decide whether you live or die because all the institutions are gone. And the people in the alliance, the men and women in the alliance, they are historians. They know history, and they know that this is a possibility, even though we can't imagine it. We just can't imagine all these institutions just going away. Congress, our Senate, our police authorities, everything just going away. But it could happen, and it has happened before. Even when the Soviet Union was overthrown, the Soviet Union in the 90s, I think it was in the early 90s, the Soviet Union was the largest country on the planet at that time. It was so large. And the Soviet Union was overthrown in 89, 90, around there. And its institutions were not strong. The Russian government institutions were not strong enough to take over. And Russian gangs actually took over all of Russia and some of the Soviet republics as well for several years. For several years, if you had to travel through Russia and through those areas, you had to deal with the gangs, the Russian gangs, all different types of gangs that all controlled different territories throughout Russia and the Soviet republics as well. And that went on for years and years, many years, until Russian government was able to reconstitute and become powerful enough to assert itself again. So that's the sort of thing. That all is the reason why this is being done so slowly. That's why, we have to explain this to all the patriots who just have lost patience and who are just thinking, Q's not real. None of this is real. Nothing's going to get done because it is. It is going to get done. It is being done.
It's such a massive, like you said, it's so massive and so interconnected, and it's a global, literally a global criminal group that's
exactly
infiltrated everything.
Yeah,
almost all governments, almost all huge companies, like institutions, everything.
Right, but especially in the United States, they came into direct control of the United States, and I think it was 1917. I think it was 1917 when the Federal Reserve was created, and the IRS, the United States IRS, at the same time was created because you needed a feeder system to feed into the Federal Reserve to keep it growing and keep it alive. So that's why the IRS was created, to take our value of our labor and put it over to the Federal Reserve. Even that's how all that, and that's when the Cabal, that's how the deep state started, that controlled the United States directly. And so 1917 to now, that's like over 100 years of building their power, their grip, their control over us. And it takes more than 3 years to undo all that.
Yeah. And they've tried in the past, and I think they've learned their lesson a couple times, learned the hard way in the past, and they realize what kind of plan they had to come up with and what was necessary to even have any chance of taking down this infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when JFK found out what was going on, and he was like freaked out about it, and he, like, just look at that speech that he made. It's very obvious that's what he's talking about. Where
the secret societies,
the secret oaths. Yeah, he was ready to just go after it, and he wanted to the Reserve and in the CIA and like all this stuff because he found out what was going on and how terrible it was.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We saw what happened to him, so it's like you can't just go about this in any kind of way like that. It has to be done very methodically, very secretive, and very
and you bring up a good point.
Well connected to.
You bring up a good point. So many people are like, why would Trump get up there and still support vaccines, or why would he support this or support that? Because if he does say the wrong thing like that publicly, that could mean he could suffer the same fate. So it's optics are key. And I see you smiling over there. Obviously, you have something to say.
Yeah, he's not ready yet to really take on the pharmaceutical industry, who basically they have all the money right now. They're like $1 trillion industry. They have got everybody's money, and they have an entire generation of old people hostage in our society, and they're not letting go of that, and they're not without a fight. And Trump isn't quite ready to take that on yet, but I believe he will later on. So I believe that's the reason why. Yeah, I also have seen him say, "Oh yeah, vaccines are fine, vaccines are good," and and that makes you think, what's going on with that? And I think that's all it is. It's just that he's not ready for that particular fight yet. I think that's all it is. It's simple as that. But going to your other point, though, Aaron, the thing the thing about the speech I love, because I have a theory here, a working theory that we have had just 3 presidents that all were not controlled by the cabal, and just 3. And now we have a 4th, but at the time we had 3, and I believe they were Eisenhower, who, and each of these presidents have expressed it through a speech,
and he
by speaking out against the cabal in their own way. And the first one was Eisenhower. And these things should be taught in school once we have real schools.
Once we have real
people. Exactly. But the first one is Eisenhower, who gave the speech, military-industrial complex. Beware the military-industrial complex speech. And that was a tremendous speech where he was crying out for help. And people should go listen to that speech, and they'll realize that guy, he was not controlled by the cabal. And the second one, of course, is JFK and the Secret Society speech that you just talked about, where he was the most blatant about calling out the cabal, who they are, men who stand in the shadows and rule by fear and power. And, he laid it all out. And of course, then ultimately they laid him out as well. And the third one, I believe, was Ronald Reagan, when he went to the UN and he gave what I call the alien force speech. And the media covered it up by saying, oh, he's talking about aliens, he's talking about Soviet Union, things like that. And I heard both of those theories on the alien force speech. And I believe they were both wrong. I believe he was talking about the cabal when he was saying this alien force among us that is here with us now, and they are trying to direct what we do, and we need to fight against them. And I believe that's what he was talking about as well. Absolutely. And now,
100% agree.
And now we have Trump that gave this great, amazing speech in front of Cabal Central, which is the UN. And he gave this tremendous speech, and it was basically all about an attack. It was the fulfillment of those other 3 speeches and those other 3 presidents. It was all fulfilled. It was all brought together in Trump at the United Nations when he went there, and he gave the speech that I call "Globalism is Dead." Globalism is dead. He went to the UN to say that globalism is dead. That was the ultimate final fulfillment of those 3 other speeches, where he called out the cabal directly, and he called them by their political flavor, globalism. And he said, it's over, guys, it's over. And that was the ultimate thing to do at the ultimate place, the UN.
In their own house.
Exactly.
He walked in and told him what's up.
Exactly.
So when he said alien force among us, and you referred to it as a cabal, that could be taken literally, as far as there are ETs working within the government.
Or maybe he meant double meaning, possibly.
Or the same meaning, because according to my research and according to the books, according to the investigations that I've done, it looks increasingly like the cabal and malevolent alien entities could be the same thing, working together. Together
they are.
So that you could be, and all you need to do is look at my book, The Extra Dimensionals, for that, and the explanation from top to bottom of exactly how that works and what is involved with that, because it's all there. It's all there.
And we're essentially referring to reptilians.
Draco.
You know.
Oh yeah, I know.
All right. You're on top of it.
Well, there's a lot to say about that, and there's a lot to say that'll make you sound crazy too.
But we don't want that.
No,
Yeah.
But I know that's
people
what.
think we're crazy.
Yeah, I know that's what it is. The reptilian infiltration. That's one I noticed some people just laugh at when you say, and they just turn their head.
Or you listen to too much David Icke or something. Yeah.
But when you look into it, it's undeniable. To be honest, I really think it is. And you've had so many. You've investigated so many cases for the government, for the FBI. You've seen it firsthand. There's smoking gun documents, the FBI vault. You can go on the website and even look at these documents.
Right.
So that brings me to my question. What do you think? Do you think there's a benevolent force behind Q and the Alliance? As far
like
as ETs.
Yeah.
If that's really it's difficult to explain, but I'll give you the short answer. Yes. Myself, I do believe that. I do believe that there are benevolent entities that are working with the Alliance, that are working for our good, for our benefit, and who are probably with the leaders of the Alliance all the time. Because I see so many things happening that require supernatural assistance, that require miracles to happen. I mean, if you really look at the situation very carefully, you can see, for instance, my dear friend Mike Barra has done a forensic examination of Trump's activities over the last 2 years, and he's come up with 5 assassination attempts that are available, that people can see happening in front of their eyes. And and I believe it, because he laid it out. Each instance, he laid them out, and he said, "Look at this is what happened. Watch here." And he showed the couple of them where these giant limousines come out of nowhere and try to smash the president's car, for no particular reason, and then the person inside doesn't even remember what they did or why they did it. It's things like that. And it's amazing. And there's just so many miracles that keep happening, that keep protecting members of the Alliance, not just Trump, but other members of the Alliance too. And so I do believe that, as we've seen in the past, there are benevolent alien entities that are working with this, and who have much greater power than the ones on the other side. This what I believe.
Yeah,
and
we said agree.
Yeah. And in the long run, that's why this is even possible right now. I think without like you said, he would have. There's 5 attempts I didn't even know about, but
there's no way they would have.
Oh, nobody knows about them, because you'd have to just sit down and just do so much research, and so much examination that it's a lot. It's a lot of work. That's why we need guys like Mike Barra to do that work for us.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, because I had wondered, like, man, I'm surprised, but there it is. It's already been.
Well, they tried to take out Reagan back in like 81, like early in his presidency.
But they shot someone else.
But the guy stumbled right when, and you could debate whether that was an accident or there was some kind of intervention there. But
the bullet missed his heart by like an inch.
Yeah. So that was almost like a miracle.
He actually lived. Yeah.
But also right after that is when it seems like he got kind of spooked by that and realized, oh, I need to like watch what I be more careful here,
I'm sure. Yeah.
But he did make that speech, like you said. And he in ways like that, he was willing to kind of like put out there what he was.
Oh yeah.
What he thought.
And after he was shot, Reagan was actually more popular than ever because of the sympathy factor.
Yeah. So they actually
and the Democrats weren't able to stop anything that he wanted, and he became more powerful than he ever was before. And that was after that he was able to overthrow the Soviet Union. with help from Margaret Thatcher, John, the Pope at the time, John Paul II, who also was a big anti-communist, and Margaret Thatcher, and they just got together. They were able to destroy the Soviet Union.
And I know he was, as far as the ET disclosure part of it, he didn't talk about that anymore. Well, not like he was talking about it to begin with.
Yeah.
But I did hear that they did a private screening of the movie E.T. in the White House with Steven Spielberg. And he stood up after the movie and said, there are people in this room who know that every second of that movie is true. And or something along
everything you've seen here is absolutely true.
Is that something along those lines? And then he walked out. But that was like the extent he was willing to go as far as, any disclosure, because obviously there was an attempt on his life.
Yeah, I heard that story too. But also Reagan sometimes was kind of a joker. Like, he liked to make jokes. So people were able to, just
write it off.
Poo-poo. Yeah, write off that story by just saying, he's just
making a joke.
He's just making a joke.
Behind every joke.
Yeah.
So we're getting about at an hour now. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we start wrapping things up?
I just want to tell people to make sure you get your Q T-shirts. I'm not selling them, but I am selling my books on my website, johntemmelbooks.com, and people can buy my books direct from the author. I would ask them to especially look at the Power Investigators, which gives a lot of the history behind the Cabal and the people who are willing to fight against the Cabal, investigators who have special abilities, and also the Extra Dimensionals, which also continues the story of the Cabal and also talks about some of these malevolent alien entities as well. So I would ask people to look at that. And also, I also always have to mention that I'll be doing Contact in the Desert, the biggest paranormal conference, consciousness conference in the world, at May 29th to June 1st. And that will be Contact in the Desert. And that's going to be a huge event. I'll be doing Montreal, Quebec in August. I'll be doing 2020 Visions of Tomorrow in Montreal, Quebec, August 14th to the 23rd. And then I'll be doing, in September, Experience 2020 in Florianopolis, Brazil, from September 19th to the 21st. And that should be another huge event where we try to impart knowledge, cutting-edge knowledge. Always new information, guys. Always has to be new information for people. That's very, very important.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. People go to these conferences, they want new information. So I agree with that. Definitely. And Brazil, I would love to be able to make it to that. That would be so cool. But were you saying something?
No.
Oh, I was saying, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
this was
thank you so much.
Truly incredible. I think we got a lot of we touched on a lot of juicy stuff.
We definitely did.
And I just can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your time with us.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's been really great being on here on Journey to Truth podcast with Tyler and Aaron.
Aaron.
Good. Just gonna put out my name like that from now on.
I'm going to. I'm going to make it a point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. And thank you for coming on and sharing all that fabulous knowledge. We can't wait to see what you have coming in the future. And we will see everyone next week. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.